editorial is my own opinion and does not reflect the views of any companies to whom I may be currently attached or have been attached in the past. Specific quotes will be from publicly accessible articles which will be linked to in the bibliography in the info section of this video. Since the very earliest narrative movies, filmmakers have wanted to transport the audience to places that even the filmmaker couldn't go. What is Star Wars without the desolate desert wastes surrounding Jabba's palace, or the staccato glass and metal buildings composing the surface of Coruscant? Long before the digital advent of computer-assisted visuals, practical artists came up with a technique that combined fine art and filmmaking in a perfect blend. When pioneering French filmmaker Georges Méliès made Journey to the Moon in 1902, special effects meant painting some curtains as backdrops and using an actual man in a moon costume for the man in the moon. Even today, with blockbuster film budgets over $250 million, it is still not economically feasible to film on the moon. Despite being most famous for its silver screen incarnation, matte painting has its roots in still photography. In the mid-19th century, photographers began using double exposure techniques to composite two distinct images into one photograph. In the Victorian era, so-called spirit photography captured the imagination of the masses. In these photos, ghostly apparitions seemed to mingle with the living. They were, in reality, simple darkroom tricks, or what we now call special effects. Due to their far-reaching historical roots, matte paintings are one of the original VFX techniques used in filmmaking. Originally used in photography, matte paintings have evolved from painted glass panels to entire 3D digital worlds. A matte painting is often a painted glass pane that is used to show a landscape or large set piece. Matte paintings are either filmed on set, where they are framed to look like a physical set piece, or combined with live footage in post-production. Now, it's self-evident what a painting is, but what is a matte? Instead of using the word matte, think of it in terms of the word mask, to hide, cover up, or section off. Magician and legendary filmmaker Georges Méliès used the matte painting technique in many of his films. In his 1898 film, Four Heads Are Better Than One, Méliès would use a glass pane painted black to create a matte. When shooting on film, the black matte kept light from reaching the camera. Since a portion of the film was not exposed to light, it would leave that part of the frame empty. Méliès would then rewind the film and set up an opposite matte. By removing the original matte and blacking out everything else, the film would now fill in the blanks. The resulting sequence was absolutely astonishing. Now, this masking or matte technique is still impressive today, but what about extending a set to create a location you otherwise couldn't shoot? In 1907, Norman Don would use glass paintings in his film, Missions of California. Many of the missions Don was filming had been partially destroyed. He would use matte paintings to make the buildings look whole again, often painting the missing arches or roofs. Don would also disguise telephone poles as trees. Matte painting in itself is just as old as the history of VFX, originally using oil painting directly onto glass in front of the camera, helping to create the wonderful world seen in the original Star Wars and Indiana Jones films. It is the area of VFX that has both changed the most and changed the least over the years. Essentially, the typical glass shot comprised of a large sheet of clear glass bound within a sturdy wooden frame. Naturally, the glass shot was never a full, complete painting. The purpose of the glass matte painting was to fill in whatever parts of the shot the director wanted, leaving often significant portions of unpainted clear glass through which the actors could do their thing whilst carefully staying within a prescribed set of marks so they don't vanish under the painting. Sometimes, the painted elements wouldn't be on glass, but on other materials. Aluminum, for example, something sturdy enough to hold its own painted weight, but light enough to hang in front of the camera. Matte paintings were still traditionally used on many major motion pictures through the 1930s as well, such as the barracks in All Quiet on the Western Front, the castle in Dracula, Skull Island in King Kong. Alfred Hitchcock was using glass pane matte paintings throughout the 40s and well into the 60s. They were prominently used in North by Northwest and The Birds. In modern times, while most motion picture productions have moved to blue and green screens, the techniques used by matte painters are still applied to modern filmmaking. Matte paintings are also no longer trapped in two-dimensional images. Entire 3D sets and backgrounds are created digitally. Even digital cameras are used to add movement. While a matte painter of old would simply have to be a brilliant, quick, and communicative oil-on-glass painter, modern matte painters have to juggle an ever-growing list of skill sets. A matte painter creates visual backgrounds used to either replace or enhance live-action photographed plates. The artist works with stills taken from live-action photography, digital still photography, rendered CG elements, and digital paint to create believable environments elements that are seamlessly integrated into the film by compositing artists. Matte painting now tends to come under the umbrella of environment work, completed in the larger VFX companies by an environment team/department. As the skills required of a modern-day matte painter run the gamut of the entire VFX or animation pipeline, many go by the titles of generalists or environment artists these days. Matte painting is very often a tool in the artist's arsenal. When I approach a shot, my first inclination is to determine exactly what parts of the shot should be a matte painting. You can only move the camera so much on a matte shot before the synergy between the footage, we call it the play, and the matte painting element is broken. I prefer to do as much as a projected matte as possible because it renders very quickly and is much easier to change than a CG element, which will require much more time to render, and much more can go wrong with a digital environment build than with a painting. After I've determined the painted component, I'll break down exactly what I need to model in a CG software package like Maya. Often these models will be very basic, as I'll just be projecting my painting onto the geometry. You always get more realism from a photo collage painting than you will from a render, so it makes sense to me to work in that direction. But personally, I've worked in and around the film industry since 2013. I've had the good fortune to work as a matte painter on these projects. By the time this video comes out, the list will be incomplete, as I'm always knee-deep into the next show. I prepared for this career by getting my BFA and MFA in visual effects from the Savannah College of Art and Design. Now, that is not an endorsement of the university. I'm not saying that's the path you should take. That's just the one that I took. We actually have an entire video breaking down the pros and cons of art school that you should totally check out if you're interested. Do you have any questions about matte painting, environment art, or filmmaking in general? Ask away in the comments. This has been Cinema Cemetery, digging 6 feet deeper into filmmaking culture.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, give us a like. If you didn't, don't. We rotate through a series of shows, so there's always something new for you. We also have 2 stores. There's the Hungry Creature Boutique and the Cool People Cool Store. Also, if you like the music you heard in this episode, check out Fractal Impulse on Facebook and Bandcamp and Instagram, whatever, social media, and all that stuff. Yeah, cool, bye.